What's up, people? It's your girl Adeola. Some Zimbabweans are complaining that their president Robert Mugabe has spent too much on his trip to Brazil. You know about the UN Environmental Summit going on in Brazil? Well, Mugabe spends like $7 million, yes, on the trip because he took 92 delegates with him. So Zimbabweans are complaining. They're like, things are not rosy back home. How can you spend $7 million on a trip to Brazil and take 92 delegates for what? It's like, what are they going to do? I said, it's true. You know, the people of Zimbabwe have the right to complain. $7 million for a country like Zimbabwe, that is a lot of money considering the fact that this country has, you know, practically gone bankrupt. But you know, I told my friend, I said, what have you seen? You have not seen anything. You know, Nigeria is called the giant of Africa. And you know, because we are the giant, we have to outdo everybody in everything. I said, look at you. Nigeria sent 116 people as delegates to this same UN summit in Brazil. He was asking me, he said, 116 people. What are they going to do? I said, you are asking me. I don't know. I don't know what they're all going to do. Apparently, we have the most delegates, you know, of all like 300 countries that are represented. Yeah, Nigeria has the most delegates. I said, that is why we are called the giant of Africa. We like to delegate everywhere we go. It's like, we are there, you know. And this is happening just a few months after our president vowed to reduce the cost of, you know, traveling overseas for all these summits. Yes, to say the truth, he reduced it a little bit because the last time they went to the UN summit, it was like 130 something people. So this is actually a reduction, you know, by 10. You know, I sat down to think. I said, why are they so much interested in going to this Brazil? And then I was like, Brazil, that is where all the crazy carnivals are happening. Brazil. Meanwhile, things are not okay back home. Suicide bombing is now becoming an everyday occurrence, you know. All these bombings, student rioting, gunmen attacking. It's like, what is going on in Nigeria? It's like, nowadays we are all over the news. Last Sunday, 3 churches were bombed in Zaria and Kaduna. I'm talking about Ekwa Church, Catholic Church, and Shalom Church. More than 100 people were killed last weekend. And before you start asking me what our government is doing about all these things that are going on back home, remember that half of them are in Brazil giving speeches, yes, and looking good. They act like the world doesn't know what's really going on. And the remaining half back home, they are still fighting over the remnants of the $720,000 bribe. The one given to Farouk, you know. This man is supposed to be investigating corruption. Can you imagine? And he himself was collecting $620,000 bribe, cash. See how we fight corruption? So the ones back home are busy sharing the bribe money, and the ones in Brazil, they are busy trying to look good. Just keeping it real. Now, speaking about looking good to the outside world, the Foreign Policy and Fund for Peace have released their 2012 edition of Failed States. Every year, these organizations release a map of the world that shows each country and how strong they are. Now, the way they define a failed state is when the central government is weak and ineffective, when such government has little practical control over what's going on in its territory, when such government is not able to provide basic public services, when there is a sharp economic decline, and when there is high level of corruption and criminalities in that country. In short, they define a failed state as a country that is characterized by social, political, and economic failure. Now, the level of failure has stages. As you can see, the really green ones, like the dark greens, they're the ones that are most stable. The wine colors are the countries that are in critical condition. Okay, so there is dangerous, and then there is critical. Critical is worse. So all the countries that you see in wine color, they are in critical condition. Okay, are you seeing what I'm seeing? It's like the whole of Africa. I say the whole of Africa is in danger or critical condition. How can they paint Africa like that? Now it's like they just started painting the whole of Africa. when I realized that this is what the world thinks of us. You know, it's like we are not taking care of business back home. This is how the world sees us. The funny part of this is that the presidents of this stable countries, none of them is attending the summit in Brazil. Honestly, Obama is not there. The Prime Minister of UK is not there. The Chancellor of Germany is not there. Like the countries that are doing good, they didn't leave home to go to watch something that is going on in Brazil. It's the countries that are in danger or critical condition that are able to go to, you know, this summit in Brazil. It's like whenever I say something like this, I ask myself, does somebody show things like this to our leaders? Like, do they know this is how the whole world sees us? It's like, hey, somebody showing Mr. President maps like this. My point is, when will African leaders wake up and take care of business back home before going abroad to make appearances, you know, acting like things are rosy, when in fact we are in danger or critical condition? This is how the world is seeing us, and until we take care of business back home, this is how they will continue to see us. You know, I'm just keeping it real. Now, speaking of critical conditions, Ethiopia just passed a law that prohibits the use of Skype. Yes, to make calls. You are not allowed to use Skype if you are in Ethiopia. If you do, you're facing up to 15 years in prison. A lot of people were quite surprised when they heard about this. And it's like, where have you been? This kind of oppressive governance has been going on in Ethiopia for a long time. See, the Prime Minister, Meles Zenawi, came into power as a freedom fighter in 1991. This is 2012. He's still in power. Now, guess what? The whole of Ethiopia has one national TV. Of course, it is controlled by the government. One national TV for the whole of 80 million people. That's how much freedom of press they have in Ethiopia. It's not really freedom of press, it's like a freedom of oppression. And the radio station and the daily newspaper, it's like all controlled by the government, including the telecommunication. That means they're able to listen in to people's phone calls and they're able to read through their emails. Of course, the internet service provider is also the government, which is why they're able to ban the use of Skype. By the way, this Prime Minister still holds an election every 4 years because, you know, he's trying to be democratic. Except that he wins every time. In 2008, when they held this election, out of 547 seats in the parliament, the opposition party could only win 1 seat. And you know why he did that? Because in 2005, when he tried a really free and fair election, nobody voted for him. The opposition party won all the seats. Well, at least when they counted in Addis Ababa, which is the capital. And as soon as he was told that he didn't win in Addis Ababa, he told them to stop counting all the votes in other places. So he sent away foreign observers and then he told them, now recount the votes. And somehow he was still declared the winner of that election, even though the opposition party won all the seats in the capital. So the people of Ethiopia protested. They were like, this election is rigged. And guess what? He killed about 200 people, about 800 were injured, and he detained more than 40,000 people. 27 journalists were charged with treason, including 5 correspondents from Voice of America. That's why the Committee to Protect Journalists have declared Ethiopia as the leading source of exiled journalists in the world, with more than 200 Ethiopian journalists living in exile. So now that he banned the use of Skype, yes, don't be surprised. This has been going on for a long time. I'm just hoping that the people of Ethiopia will not give up until there's a revolution in Ethiopia. Just keeping it real. Now to a serious issue. I beg my people, don't commit fornication. Don't commit fornication, because the consequence can be deadly, especially if you live in Mali. I beg, don't commit fornication. Don't laugh. This is a serious issue. Do you know that a couple in Mali were recently given 100 lashes of whip? Yes, because they committed fornication and they had a child out of wedlock. Ha! They were beating mercilessly. I said, hey, 100 lashes for committing fornication. The Islamic group that carried out this judgment are saying that they want to enforce Sharia law in Mali. You know, I feel for this couple. I said, Kai, 100 lashes. There will be no sitting for like a week. In fact, they had to go to the hospital for medical treatment after the beatings. You know, I started thinking that if they should implement this kind of law in America, hey, a lot of people will be whooped every day. This is how people will be going about. I said, if they beat this man for having one child out of wedlock, one child, what will be done to somebody like Ed Huben? You know, the guy from Netherlands. This guy has fathered 82 children. They are all out of wedlock. You know, it is something the guy does for a living. You know, helping women that want babies to have babies by sleeping with them. And he has fathered 82 children out of wedlock. In fact, this guy is known as the most prolific professional baby maker in the whole world. Because he's not married to any of the baby mamas. You can just imagine how many lashes this guy will get. The good thing is, I don't think he will stop by Mali anytime soon. You know, he travels around the world, you know, making babies around the world. But yeah, I'm sure somebody would have hinted him that Mali is a no-go area, you know. Just keeping it real. Before I leave today, I want you guys to see a little bit of Mali. Alright y'all, it's been real and I'm keeping it real right up in here. Until next week, I'ma see y'all later. Peace out.